Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to what promises to be a critical and necessary conversation about the connection between human creativity and artificial intelligence. Today's roundtable, Artificial Intelligence, Real Communicators, whose voice leads the narrative, asks not just what AI can do, but what it should do. As technical communicators, educators, and strategists, we are no longer the sole curators of clarity or authors of instruction. Algorithms are now co-authors, tools are becoming collaborators, and automation is reshaping the narrative landscape. But amid this shift, questions of authorship, authority, ethics, and human value remain unresolved. Who takes responsibility in the meaning? How do we maintain inclusivity, accuracy, and integrity when the voice may not even be human? And most importantly, what is our evolving role, not just as conveyors of content, but as stewards of understanding? Our distinguished panel brings decades of diverse and global experience, from regulated industries to user-centered design, from accessibility to visual storytelling, and today we ask them not only to inform, but to challenge us. And before we start the discussion, I would like you to introduce you to our distinguished panelists in order to answer the main question, which is what must we protect and what must we reinvent to keep communication both intelligent and human? So we'll have time to answer these questions, but before going for discussion, let me introduce you to our 5 panels. So, Pia Karajsavi. She is a doctoral researcher at the University of Vaasa, focusing on advancing her academic pursuits since September 22. Simultaneously, she is on study leave from her role as a documentation specialist at Vaisala, where she has been since October 2020. With extensive experience, Pia previously served as documentation manager at ABB Marine and held various documentation and technical writing roles at Konecranes and Lionsbridge. She holds a Master of Arts in Technical Communication from the University of Vaasa, enhancing expertise in the field. She's also a member of the board of the Finnish Society for Technical Communications, SVTY, in Finland. Then, next to Pia, we have Dagmar Schwarz, who is a seasoned professional in technical communication, education, and training, with over 3 decades of experience as managing director of 4People, a German consultancy specializing in technical documentation, translation, training, and advisory services. She was awarded the Businesswoman of the Year in Germany in 2016 by BVMW. In parallel with her consulting work, she has served since 2008 as a quality advisor for TÜV Süd Product Service GmbH, contributing to the development of certification processes for training programs. Her academic background includes a master's degree in sports sciences from Universidade de Lisboa and postgraduate studies in educational sciences, methodology, and didactics in Kassel, Germany. On my left side, we have Nick Hill, a senior technical communicator with over 25 years of experience in the field. Nick Hill focuses on developer documentation and writing for localization to leverage modern translation solutions. His current professional interest is in how to create documentation for developers at scale, at cost, and dynamically by embracing a Docs Code approach. His specialities include Docs Code, open standards, DITA XML, developer documentation, writing for localization, product management, requirements management, business development, object-oriented languages, among other. And he's also a member of the board of SVTY, the Finnish Technical Communication Society. Then, next to Nick, we have Françoise Jouin, who is an experienced technical writer and documentation specialist with over 30 years of expertise in creating and delivering high-quality technical content. Since 1995, she has worked independently in her own company, Technicom, designing and writing technical documentation, online help systems, training materials, and e-learning modules. Her diverse portfolio includes roles as Meteo France, Swift, in Belgium, Alcatel, among others. She is proficient in bilingual communication, documentation management, and a wide range of authoring tools. And last but not least, from Portugal, we have Joaquim Batista, as documented large involving software products since 1997. In 2014, Joaquim adopted comics to quickly introduce features to new users. Later on, Joaquim used comics once more to show users how to experience a product and to also explain how many problems are solved in larger companies. Before tackling documentation, Joaquim worked as a trainer, programmer, system administrator, and academic researcher. He's also very experienced in the field in several companies in Portugal, working now as a freelance technical writer. Also as an active member of the board of APECOMTEC, the Portuguese Society for Technical Communication, he contributes his expertise and collaborates with fellow professionals to promote best practices and drive the industry forward. So this very briefly describes the panel today with different views on the topic, and I will now move to some questions to each of you, okay? Starting with Pia on my right side, and if you don't mind, no, okay, you need the mic, yes. And I would start by asking you, Pia, since you have a big academic and industry experience in accessibility, being this central to inclusive communication, how do you think AI based writing tools could enhance or threaten accessibility especially for neurodivergent or linguistic diverse audiences?
Thank you, Alexander, for the question. Briefly, I wanted to update my bio from before. So I'm not on study leave anymore, but I'm back in Vaisala. And I'm also not at the board of STVU anymore, but was there for
Thank you for the
quite
update.
a few years. Yes, it was, yeah, the previous one, but never mind. So potentials and problems with AI related to accessibility and neurodivergent people and linguistically divergent people. So, of course, there can be benefits with AI if used properly. So it can come up with suggestions that you may not be familiar with and that you can use and incorporate in your work. I'm sure that is quite similar with any type of field where you want to ask AI for help. And generally, as a writing tool, it's quite useful. It can be, of course, you cannot trust it as is. But the problem, I would say, is how the AI has been trained, especially when it comes to neurodivergent people and other disability groups. There can be a lot of information that is like stereotypical and in some cases also harmful. So there can be information that is incorrect or outdated and that is not in the best interest of the neurodivergent people, for example. And of course, there might be some current events that might mean that the material that is used to train AI might be even politically informed. You never know. The problem with AI is that you don't really know where the information is coming from. So that is something that can be a very, very dangerous problem. When it comes to writing, maybe not so much, but in general, I would say yes. When it comes to linguistically diverse user groups, AI could be a very useful tool in translating, at least to get some kind of first draft, or even like automated, well, basically machine translation. But once again, you cannot trust it as it is. You still need someone to check the content. And if you think about people who need easy language, there is some research about can you use AI to translate from the standard language to easy language, and that is a different type of translation, and it is more complicated, and I would not necessarily use AI for that.
So it can be more threatened than help, depending on the case, of course.
I would say, as a writer, you should be informed about what you're asking already. If you don't know anything about these things, then you have no way of assessing what AI is telling you. And then I would always include a person to review what AI has said. And of course, if possible, to train AI yourself with additional information. But once again, you don't know what's behind it, so that can be a very risky thing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll keep with isolated questions, and then we'll move to the group panel answers. So I now would ask also Dagmar, something more related to your core business, and you as someone with extensive experience in training and documentation quality assurance across industries. How do you see the balance shifting between human oversight, and machine-generated content in regulated contexts? Meaning, can AI ever meet certification-level documentation standards?
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much for inviting me. You see, industry is really changing because of AI, significantly. But we have to think about that it's just, at the time, a supporting tool. We can use it as a supporting tool. We can go for a different work from the part of the technical communicators. The technical communicators at the time in industry are spending most time on creating text. And here we can go for to raise time for other things because we have other issues. Creating text is not the core of technical documentation in industry. It is one of the tasks. And here we can save the time to do the others. That means I think that the work is going, the human part, the human work is going to towards conceptual thinking and not just create text. But the text which comes out from the machine means that it has to be verified. It means the machine has to be trained. And the training we give is essential for the output we have. The output has to meet an actual standard of all the laws we have around the machines. And think about, since '93, we had so many changes in the standards that here I see a real issue for who is programming and training AI. So we have changing tasks, and now in industry, at the time, people are spending most time on creating text, but leaving out a lot of other tasks. And the other tasks will, in future, I'm sure, become more important. And not only more important, there will be an addition of of more tasks. So, technical communicators will always be necessary. That's the human part. I'm not aware of all the possibilities of what we can do, because I'm not addicted to programming, but I'm sure that at the time we already have some solid results coming out, but we are not yet prepared to validate them. And this is one of the biggest issues we have in industry at the time. So my statement is that it is very, very risky to say, I take the text and I'm sure that it's to the actual standard of machines and in industry. For that reason, I go with Pia, that we have to take time, and the time we have to increase the criteria we give to our technical communicators. And on the other side, we have the AI, and people who are training the AI will be really the communicators. Yeah, they have to provide the product. They have to provide research on the product, because AI has no eyes to see. So that's the big problem. For that reason, it will be, I think, if we can really raise technical communicators group, which is a professional working on with a tool, a supporting tool, which is AI, we really are going to increase and to get a real better. And I have no doubt that the information AI is processing much faster. And this is time. You know, industry means always time, time is money. And so as this is one of the rules we can't deny, we have really to say, okay, we help the technical communicators. And there are people predicting at the time that the communicators, the role of the communicators is the end of the profession, and I don't believe that. I think it is really the game which is coming up now. We have to have rules, and then the machine is a supporting tool. The standards changing will always make new issues for who is working on AI, and will always have also results in the work of the technical communicators.
Okay, thank you. I'm keeping some words from both of you so that then I can summarize it and challenge you a bit more. Thank you so much. So we've gone through accessibility, regulating and certification, and now we move to a more tech subject with Nick. So Nick, for you, I'd like to ask you the following. So you work in Dockers code and developer communication. How do you define authorship when contributions come from both humans and machines? Should we rethink attribution in collaborative human writing workflows?
Well, that's actually a fairly easy question to answer in Dox's code environment, because actually the authorship is not really so very important from our perspective, because it's a collaborative authoring model. So whether the collaboration is coming from tooling, and we use a lot of tooling, or if it's coming from other human beings, or the writer who has ownership over the document, doesn't matter really in the end. We have a general principle of follow the guidelines of our security organization, but otherwise use it for whatever you feel is to be useful.
But if it is a machine, is it the same?
No.
Oh, okay.
It has, sometimes it does brilliant, sometimes it does terrible, right? Is that, I know that this will be a topic of conversation later, I believe, but I was hosting a talk by the content wrangler, Scott Abel, for a conference for TechCon. And he's strongly of the opinion, or at least was at the time, that prompt engineering is going to be a sub-discipline in our field. And those will be the people who will be driving the field in future.
Another question I have for you all at the end.
Yeah, exactly. But so, but for me, right, is that I work very closely with software. I only work with software products. That particular branch of industry, I think, has been an aggressive adopter of these technologies. You can see it actually. I was talking with an instructor. You can see it with the difficulties people finishing their education are having getting those entry-level jobs, because it's quite clear in the software industry, I'm talking about programming, that the tasks that a junior developer would have done in past is now being handed off into the AI. Again, cost pressures you were talking about, right? Obviously. Is that I think that it's just part of life. You sort of just, put it into your portfolio of things that you interact with. But as you say, it's actually rather surprising how little writing you do when you're a technical writer. There's so many other things you need to do that add value to the company that pays your paycheck, right? Is that the way I see it? Is it, this is, well, I have a good colleague of mine who says, at the end of the week, make a list of the 10 things you did that annoy you and see which ones you can automate. Anastasia, by the way, is that I think this is a way for you to offload tasks that really don't take much effort from you, and to have you go up the value chain for the company that you're working with. Is that so? Yeah, so that, as I say, it's authorship I'm not so worried about, because, when I was earlier in my career, I probably published hundreds of thousands of pages of stuff. My name's on none of it. Is that if you think about ownership, well, then the writers in my team and writers I know in other companies, well, they own the document. They're responsible for issuing it, responsible for following up how it's being perceived. These tools certainly help with examples and providing code to our developer customers. Yeah, no, it's just an unalloyed good, but I do have some caveats. But
Okay.
those are for later.
Okay, thank you, Nick. And now, Françoise, we move from authorship to other topic, which is more ethical and intuition related. So you've navigated the documentation from critical systems, medical devices to national meteorology software. What role should human intuition and ethical judgment play when AI generates instructional or safety critical content?
When you mention human and ethical, for me, it's just remembering my early books on robots from Isaac Asimov. And in fact, the 3 laws he wrote, maybe I can recall these 3 laws. First one, the robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. The second law, a robot must obey the orders given by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And the third law, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. And then afterwards, another law have been added. A robot may no harm humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. So I think it's really now the moment we have to think about that. And as far as I understand, and with my little experience of AI in technical communication, I'm not sure that this is already in force, or as you said previously, we don't know how it is included. So this is the main concern, I would say, now.
Yes, so we must be ethically very careful and assess it very well. Okay. We'll go to that in a more general approach soon. But now, let me go to my last question to your individual profile. Although, Joaquin, you are an engineer, your linguistic and creative part are very interesting for us, or for me, in this panel. That's why I'm going to focus on a more creative part of your work, although you work with software and other documentation areas. But let me focus on this part. So, because that's something that is somehow different. And use comics and storytelling and domain models in technical communication. How do you think, and this brings back into future explanation, how can we preserve this emotional resonance and context when AI is a machine, often trained on flattened content? So how can we preserve this emotion that you bring forward when you are creating more, when you are documentation using storytelling or comics for technical communication? Can AI cope to that or not?
Perhaps too much.
Too much.
So the models were trained on the text, but that includes literature and marketing content, so there is no lack of emotion. Okay? But the emotion is not necessarily desired in technical communication, and still has to be the right emotion, and the thing that we are creating has to say the right things. Thinking about it another way, the models tend to create some kind of average of what they saw, or they generate nonsense. Now, very often, technical communications are working on new things, so things that by their very nature are somehow unique or new, and so it's something that the models did not see. So, from my point of view, you can use the AI to perhaps get a little bit inspired, but if you're really trying to do a good work, you are going to have to create something unique for that unique situation, and even the emotions that you want to present, to show, have to be very carefully put there. So, I'm like others, I see the AI may help, may give you ideas, but the final result, especially if you're trying to create something more creative, it really has to be yourself. It has to be unique and created by you. Okay,
So
no other way.
AI to do the job for you. Okay.
No, not at all. And I will never put an AI output directly in front of a customer, not if your company is liable for it.
Yeah, liability is also a nice word that I would now thank you for finishing with that word.
And
I don't know if you finished actually.
Another point, it depends on your kind of work as well, but I've often worked with companies where the documentation is not actually public. So it's something that the partners are going to see, but not the general public. So by definition, the models never saw it as well. So they have no idea what I'm talking about. So they are not going to be able to see
The whole
that much
picture,
helpful.
the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
And here you have the two important points. Is that AI is of course trained with available data, that has to be made available. But if we're talking about, and here we are talking about, public AI use. But if it's, and I don't know if that's already being made, but maybe some big companies are already developing their own AI models, and then they can introduce their own classified information or own information that is not public. If they do that in a company, okay, so that they use their own data models and their own data to train a machine, then they would be able to have, as you said, a good source of information, which is controlled, which is core, which is good, has good quality because it has been developed by the company or by companies that are reliable. And with the scenery that you all described here as risky, careful, not to be trust change in this case, that just like, for instance, in machine-assisted translation, we started by having general tools, and also for not only machine-assisted translation, but machine translation directly. We started by having general tools and public tools to, of course, have data from everyone, but then there are lots of translation companies that now have developed their own tools. So, and they have their own machine translation tool, which is controlled, which has only source information that has been introduced by very careful and controlled, standards. We know that AI needs a much bigger data volume. That's not the same. But imagining that this is possible, which is not completely impossible, that because it's being done in several fields, then would the scenery change? Would you be, if you work in a company where the AI was being developed in a more controlled environment, would this change? Because we have this licensed use of AI, but we still don't trust who is managing that, because although it's professional, it's premium, you pay for it, but most of the people I'm talking to, they are not sure if that's really not secret, but private.
It does change the possible quality of the output. But then again, it also means that the company, after producing a certain amount of content in a specific area, needs to somehow keep producing variations of it. Perhaps that's not a very common scenario.
That's not a very
common scenario.
No, probably not.
You already address your needs. You need more and more of it. Probably not. Perhaps for instance, it's much easier to see the use of the tools that are behind the AI, for instance, to provide better search or to provide answers, but not necessarily to generate variations of content or to try to generate new content.
Nick, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think actually one of the key points here is that first off, AI is actually, of course, the industry standard tool, but it's actually not artificial intelligence. It's a pattern matching machine, right? AI is the marketing term. And I bring this up because it actually is very important to talk about what are you precisely using AI for, right? Is that, so for me, the killer app, of course, is what you mentioned about search engines, right? So internal or external, right? We all have our struggles with finding things with the various search engines. They're not very good. They're getting worse. AI, I think most of the public AI usage is about finding information. It's basically the modern search engine. And the internal models you're talking about, I work for a multinational company. It's very hard to figure out what's going on because there's all this siloed information all over the place. And, and an internal AI model really would help with finding that. And there's a lot of productivity enhancements there because it means maybe you don't have 6 teams doing the same things without knowing that, those 6 teams are doing the same things. And you have to add so much management overhead to prevent that happening, you actually lose money, right? So so it's very important to sort of categorize what you're using the AI for. It can certainly be used for artificial, enhancements of productivity, brainstorming you mentioned, right? So when we do a major restructuring of a document, we use AI to, make suggestions, and we have yet to accept any of them because they're not good, but they're a point to start the discussion. Style guide compliance, right, which is sort of semi-mechanical, right? Sometimes these things are like 200 pages long. You can't remember all of them. So you run it through the AI to change the wording to be compliant with your style guide and terminology, right? It's interesting to see, and this is not a criticism of this panel, it's interesting to see, this always goes to first, let's have it generate the text. Right? And I think for some basic marketing stuff, which is, there's tens, hundreds of millions of examples of that stuff out there. It's very, not against my marketing colleagues, but it's very similar, right? So yeah, you can generate that text, but generating the text for your product that addresses your users, particularly if it's for new features which have never existed before. So by definition, there's nothing for the pattern matching machine to pattern match against, right? Is that maybe we'll have some stuff that generates text, but there's still stuff for us as writers to do to sort of manage that process and the rollout of the tools and ensure the quality and make sure that the prompts are actually correct and we're generating the right content, right? Is that, but I think the efficiency enhancements come from other things, right? A normal task for technical writer, the tables are misformed, right? We work in Markdown, millions and millions of pipes, right? It's very easy to get the table misformed. Give it to the AI, it gives you a properly formatted table, right? Now, when I was a writer, I'm a manager now, but when I was a writer, I'd kind of like to keep those tasks where I have to fix a table to a Friday afternoon when my brain was fried and I didn't really have to think. I just had to do work, right? So I like keeping those tasks, so I probably can't keep as many of them anymore, but you can use the AI for that. But that's not generating text, right? I think, for example, for accessibility, we all know that writers struggle with providing decent alternative text for images. Give the images to the AI and have it suggest alternative text, right? SEO optimization, have it do the short description things so that the search engines find things better. Because that's actually very laborious to do and hard to do. But that's not, that's not writing the manual.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if, thank you so much, Nick. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something to this topic.
Yes, I agree that for alt text, it can be good if you put in the image and then it provides some suggestions. Of course, then you don't copy paste.
You have no idea what the quality is that you get out. So, but it's a start.
Yeah. It is a start, and especially there are some guidelines also on how to write alt text. So, of course, if you train the AI on like what is an appropriate alt text, and then if you also tell the AI what you're using this image for, then it might provide something relatively useful.
But is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Well, you have to try and figure out. Yeah, but for example, with the style guide, this week I was, or last week I was trying a little bit to train our company AI to learn our style guide, and then I gave it a manual and asked it to check it, and it found some things that I hadn't noticed, so that was good. Some other things, it found some en dashes that weren't there, so I don't know where those came from. But maybe that's a thing with en dashes and AI. I don't know. And then I made some of the corrections to the manual and uploaded it again and asked it, okay, can you check it now? And it gave the same errors, which was
Not intelligent at all.
Not really. I'm confused about that. I don't know. So I haven't tried it with the term bank. We have a terminology. Sure would be nice for terminology and for the style guide if AI were actually reliable and would actually check everything, because those are very difficult to memorize, and also if it could make suggestions on like new terms or something like that, that would be great. But yeah, I don't know.
We're not there yet.
Well, I mean, there are companies who do that, and I'm sure they are including AI these days, so I'm sure they have some kind of secret related to that. But yeah, I wouldn't.
I'm sure they'd sell it to you for money.
Sure, of course. Yeah, and I'm sure also for accessibility, if you train it for web content accessibility guidelines and other guidelines, it would come up with something useful, but again, you'd have to check.
Yeah.